Hello everybody, my name is Solus Convoy, and I'm back today with another review. Today's review is Iron Factory EX-59, the Collector, their version of IDW pipes. Sorry it's been a while since I've posted. I had some issues, finding a new camera setup and whatnot, so I just wasn't able to film for a while. But let's get into today's review. So hope I can make it up to you guys for being absent for a bit and get back on a more consistent upload schedule. First disclaimer before I show off the box, that sword and this orb he's holding don't come with him. I just wanted to have some fun stuff to show for some shots, so I just kept them on. I'm just going to put those aside. Oops. I have one of my issues with this figure is low-key. The feet are a bit weird. I'll talk about it later. Let's start off looking at the box. So the box is pretty clean. I mean, it's the classic Iron Factory box. They use this aesthetic for all their boxes. It has synergy, has their logo up there, right? The Collector EX-59. Nice photo of pipes. So not much in the terms of art, more so just edited photos of pipes and a general clean aesthetic. It's a nice box. The window, it works pretty well. Not anything shell-shocking, but I mean, it's consistent with the rest of their stuff. So that's the box. Looking at the figure himself, Pipes is very attractive. I think one of the issues that some people might end up having with this guy in terms of aesthetics is that he's a bit too cool for the character, but if you pick him up and just take a look, that head sculpt is really just Pipes. The entire proportions of this guy are just very, very heroically styled, so that's classic for Iron Factory. All their mini bots look pretty awesome. As always, I love the hand sculpts. They always do a good job with those. The open hand looks pretty great. The sword holding hand, which he comes with despite not having a sword, I'll talk more about that later, looks pretty great. I mean, looks great with a sword in it, like I showed before. But for a 360 view of the figure, very clean. There's some gaps here, but I don't think that's that big of a deal. They covered it up pretty well. He's a bit of a backpack, but it is, again, a key part of his design, so I don't really mind. And the red paint for the eye is pretty, or for the visor, is pretty great. Sometimes it doesn't show up. There's also some picked out gray here, which is painted, some silver. But yeah, for the most part, just a very simple, very well done, aesthetically pleasing figure. Alright, so let's take a look at Pipes' articulation. As is general with most Iron Factory figures, especially the modern ones, he's got a pretty good range of articulation. So the head is on a ball joint. It gets you the look both ways. Doesn't really go 360 because, the backpack. It's not loose or tight. Tolerance pretty well. There's also a transformation joint, which you can kind of use as a neck if you fake it a bit. So yeah, there's another transformation joint which doesn't really, we can get a little bit out of it without it looking too weird. Then you have for these shoulders, you can use these to go up, but you're going to have a bit of clashing, so it's a bit weird how the shoulders work because of these pieces. You can get them up to this far and then out to this far, but because of the design, you're going to be fighting the backpack consistently. And these wheels kind of like, they don't really go anywhere else. It's just part of the design, so you're going to be looking like that for your maximum range out. But then full 360, double jointed elbow that works perfectly, bicep swivel, and wrists are ball jointed, so they get you some good up and down, 360 rotation, and a bit of side to side. So very nice posability in the lower arms, but the shoulders do leave a little bit to be desired. Right? It's a design constraint you can't really blame them for. Something I was kind of surprised to see is, despite for no reason, like the shoulders I get, but the ab crunch is a bit limited. It only really gets you that much, but it is filled in from the back for those of you who don't really like ab crunches that expose parts, so, or like leave a gap, so it's pretty solid. He also has a really tight waist swivel that really feels too tight. Maybe I should lubricate that. It also feels really weird to use when the ab crunch is engaged, because the mushroom peg for the waist swivel is inside the ab crunch assembly, I think. So like I recommend not using the waist swivel while the ab crunch is engaged, just so it'll be a little bit easier. But it's fine if you like use the waist swivel and then use the crunch. Just the plastic will tell you how much you can go. It won't break or anything. You have thigh ball joints that go 90 degrees up, not very far back, some magic square moment right there. And then they don't really go all the way out to the side. They feel a bit limited in some poses, but you can like cheat more range as always by flipping the ball joints around. It's just a bit of a pain for some poses. For the thigh swivel, it's completely fine. The cut is pretty nice. It doesn't look too bad when it's engaged. And then for the knees, you have that's more of a transformation joint. You have a double jointed knee. The first one is looser than the top one, but that's good. The first one is fine for your 90, and then you can engage the second for more deeper bend. And then finally, the feet. You have a ball joint here, which gets you, up, down, your rocker, outside rocker. And then there's a toe joint here that is pretty tight, but fun to use. I just have one problem with this guy. I'm going to cover it here in the articulation segment. When you put him on a surface, this is going to be really hard to show off. His feet aren't like completely flat. I don't think I've mistransformed him because I messed with him a bit, but his feet don't feel flat. I'm going to zoom in some more and see if I can highlight that. You see that the front of his foot is like jutting off the ground. It's not really much of a complaint, more so like something to keep in mind. So in case you feel like you're having trouble like posing him or whatever, that the feet, like the back of the sole of his foot and the front of his foot aren't going to be level surfaces. So maybe that might be part of the reason you're having trouble with a certain pose, or something to keep in mind. But he is pretty nimble and can balance easily on his toes, so I don't think it's a huge concern, right? Like I just randomly just did that pose, right, and he can hold that just fine. So yeah. And I'm just going to go straight into the accessories, because this is a thing where the accessories aren't really, yeah, you'll see. So he has a lot of accessories in terms of number, but most of them are just hands. So he comes with a pair of each type of hand. So he has a closed fist, which I have on right now, which look great, and are the ones you have to use for transformation because they take up less space. He has the sword holding hand that I already showcased, which will give you that downward tilt combined with his ball peg, so you can get like the sword point without it looking bad, so that's nice. He has open hands, which I also already showcased in the beginning of the review, that also look fine. They work fine, they look great. The fit is nice for all of these, doesn't feel too tight or too loose. And then he has finally the gun holding hands, which are pretty useless, but basically you can move the gun from here, or the smokestack really, the pipe, and then you can hold it. Yeah, nobody cares. Sorry, I just find the intended placement to be much more visually interesting and fitting, and that's kind of it for accessories. So it is weird to me that this guy comes with hands like he doesn't really need. Like there's no reason for this guy to have a sword holding hand, because frankly you can't use his hand for his guns. Like if you tried, right, because of the shape of the hand and the shape of the guns, it's not going to work. Like it doesn't, it can't hold it properly. So I'm kind of befuddled as to why Iron Factory included these hands. If it's just being like doing your due diligence and keeping consistent output of alternate hands, then I completely get it. I appreciate it, actually, and I think it's cool. And I think more third-party Legends companies, Magic Square, New Age, should be more consistent in including lots of hands with their releases, especially Magic Square, which is apparently forgotten alternate hands exist. So yeah. Alright, so for the size comparisons, here we have New Age Behemoth, their Shattered Glass Sludge, one of my previous reviews. We have Legacy Skullgrin, a deluxe class figure from Modern Hasbro, and then we have one of their old legends, the G2 Tank Megatron, which has become my staple. So he's not exactly small, but he is on the smaller side of Legends figures, which is fitting for a mini bot, but obviously not as small as a New Age mini bot, which would be around here. Alright, and here is Pipes in his alternate mode. It's pretty fun, very small. I don't think the camera will convey properly until I bring my hands into frame how tiny it is. Trying not to cast a shadow on it. Yeah, it's... I know a lot of people are like, man, this is literally nothing, and this is like a nothing mode, but it is so much fun. I really like it. It's like some weird Cybertronian truck, obviously, and yeah, it has invisible hand arms very clearly. These are clearly his feet. This is, yeah, and the transformation isn't even fun, but and the smokestacks face a weird direction. But even with all those things, he's just like a fun object. He's really fun to roll. You know, he's technically posable. These parts can go up and down, and because of the unison of the bicep swivel and the shoulder ball joint, you can like tilt them outwards or inwards. It's just fun, man. Like I don't know how else to describe this other than fun. It's very small. I'm just gonna do the size comparison really quickly, and I hope this will help you guys get a sense of scale. There is one thing though, like if he's ever wobbling, you can just kind of like push the stuff down and he'll like work himself out so he rolls again, but if you push down too far, he won't be able to roll. So the way you can check to see if you've transformed him properly is that he should be able to roll well, and all of his wheels should be rolling. I think this one's a bit too high. Yeah, there you go. So now he's transformed properly. He's always going to look a bit funky, and because of the fact that he's a bit over-reliant on ball joints, there's not really much you can do about that. And he's always going to have a bit of like a wiffle waffle in terms of how solid he feels. For size comparison, here is Hasbro's Legends Class G2 Megatron. So as you can see, he compacts very well. And let me zoom out just a slight bit. And there is New Age's EX Mirage, or Xian, one of my previous reviews. Very tiny guy, very tiny little guy. Really cute, really attractive. And I'm just going to segue right into my final thoughts. I don't really have much to say beyond what's been said, but I really do think that this figure is kind of underrated. He's got like a lot of issues, like his shoulders are a bit limited because of the design. The design is a bit limiting in general. The alt mode is kind of a thing. The transformation isn't particularly fun or rewarding, but he's honestly just a really fun figure, and he's fairly affordable. I think you can get this for like $25 on average nowadays if you go to the right sites. I think I got mine from Show Z for like 24 bucks. Or $23, $22, so I would really consider this guy. I don't know if he's still in stock there. I'm sure other websites have him too, like Bomba Speed or AliExpress. He's just fun. Like I can't really say anything else other than that. He's decently posable, and like, yeah, sure, like he doesn't exactly come with the accessories to take advantage of all of his hands, but you can do a lot with him. Any 3mm weapon will fit in his hands, you know, so he can wield someone else's sword, like I have him in my shots wielding Behemoth's sword, or holding up a Bakugan. His joints are all nice and tight, at least. There's no loose joints. Maybe the head is a bit loose, but that's actually a good thing considering how hard it is to handle. So yeah, overall, I definitely recommend this guy if you're looking for just like a fun little guy to mess with. He's fairly inexpensive, especially if you're into the IDW aesthetic. If the aesthetic doesn't work for you, or you think this is like too heroic or too cool to be pipes, then don't buy it, right? If you don't like how it looks, don't buy it. But if you like how it looks, you're fine with the alt mode, and you just want a fun guy to pose and mess with, this is a recommendation for me. He's a fun, affordable figure. Good entry starter, I think, for Legends, 3P Legends, for people who haven't handled 3P Legends before. I don't think he'll be too overwhelming. So yeah, I mean, just make sure you have a baggie to store all of his tiny, tiny hands in. Thank you everyone for stopping by. Sorry for the delay in posting, and I will hope to be more consistent with my content going forward, get back on my weekly schedule. Once again, this is Soulless Convoy. Do the things that everyone else tells you to do at the end of the videos, please. I would really appreciate it. Have a great night, everybody.